Well, hey, everybody, good day. Um, for today's show, I'm going to do something a little bit in the same vein as my recent episode where I reached out to a person I'd love to talk to and just tried to inspire some or generate some curiosity about a conversation. So I recently did an episode where I this is my AI Dev Help request series where I reached out to like Yosha Bach and a few of these others where I just tried to sort of spark their curiosity. Well, now, kind of in the same vein as that, I'm really impressed by work that's being done by this guy, Balaji. And I'm going to butcher pronunciations, even though I've heard it a million times. But Balaji is the guy who made the $1 million Bitcoin bet recently. And Balaji, this episode's for you, buddy. I listened to that whole 7 or so hours you did on Lex. I'm super familiar with your work. I haven't read Network State yet, but I think you're onto something, dude. I think this is absolutely the way we should all be thinking about things. And I have an offer for you to recoup 20% of your losses in that bet. So just very quickly, I'm an early retiree because of crypto. I played the last cycle pretty all right. I'm not super wealthy, but I'm self-sustaining now. I've got temporal freedom like you and a lot of other folks. I've spent a lot of that time figuring out sort of a lot of where my own personal philosophy, and I think I've developed it. Like I'm basically at a point where I no longer need outside validation for how I define the universe, myself in it, all of it, self and outside self. So now what? What do I work on? What's fun? Well, I'll keep working on all of that stuff, but professionally, before retiring, I worked for Intel for 7 years. Before that, a company called Fiserv, and most recently for Philips. And I joined a startup in between Philips and Intel with a guy I knew at Intel. I was a software engineering manager and DevOps engineer. He needed DevOps, hired me to come on. That whole story is in an episode of my show that I'll reference in the description if you want to go back and see who it is you're talking to. I think my salary towards the end of that was around $150K a year as a software engineering man. I think after T-Comp, it was somewhere north of that, actually. When you adjust for inflation, since that date, which is 2022, I mean, my time professionally was valued at around 150 to 200K right now. I'm willing to work full-time developing a network state. But I want to be on specifically your team doing it. The person who figured out how to communicate that idea is like, I want to contribute to that, like as an open source project. As a software engineering manager, my skill set was managing a team of anywhere from, I think it was ranged from 9 to 15 engineers across my time at Intel. And that, as a frontline manager, it's a lot of logistics around people management and planning and working through review process, all of that. I'm very familiar with that. And in the startup land, they also needed, I was our systems manager for about 50 to 60 employees. And that meant all of the Active Directory stuff, setting up LDAPs or all integration for third-party services we want to use, all of that. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades, and I came up really unconventionally. I went to school to be an airplane mechanic, so I know how to weld. I know household electrical. I know plumbing. I know I work on my own cars. But I was always pretty good with computers and could make more money doing that. And so I was able to always just kind of prove myself into roles, even though I didn't have a 4-year degree. That actually turned into a tremendous asset later in life, because it was a constant hurdle I had to sort of strategize my way around professionally, to where I was managing people who had master's degrees. I had multiple times where I had multiple master's graduates where I was their manager. So I'm just I fit really well in a team that has to build, that's working on a software project. I've been a Scrum Master. Also, I did all of the legal for our little startup that was in patient messaging. And I was our compliance officer. And I did all of the threat risk assessments that we had to fill out in a HIPAA environment, where the technical requirements are really steep, because I'm very good at sort of that, thinking like I'm a lawyer, even though I'm not at all qualified to do that. So I have a host of skills that I offer up freely towards your project. And I have a reputation. I can provide references for being the type that is really easy to work with, that is the one where you go, if we have conflict, it's good this person's here, because they're good at resolving and diffusing conflict. Conflict resolution is something I have a lot of experience with. So I just you can pick me up and drop me in a team, and I can instantly probably be useful. And I'm offering my services for free. I'm self-sustaining. I'm doing this because I want to do it. It's a fun project. I think we're at a point in time where everything in Washington, D.C. is pretty ridiculous. And the community that I focused on to buy myself this temporal freedom is, I think, the crypto community, the people that are designing modern finance and Web3 are the brightest minds. And they've all built this community. And, there's all these experimentations, all these experiments with DAOs and all that. And I know that you are going to be right at the forefront of what works and what doesn't work. I would like to just be a part of that. And you can fire me at any time and I won't have my feelings hurt. And I don't require any credit. I'm allergic to credit philosophically. So you don't even have to put my name on it. It can be yours. I just, as a way to leverage my skill set to give back to humanity, this is where I see I would be most well utilized in this moment. This is specifically contributing to a project where we build as an open source project something like the Constitution that has... I'm struck by this moment. I just had to do an hour of technical support yesterday for my parents, who are 74 and 72. And my father, 74, loves flight simulators. And he wanted to get into the latest flight sim, and he just lost his password, and he ended up changing his cell phone so he couldn't reset it. So he had to buy the game again, because nobody actually has digital ownership. And so he had to go set up a new account, and then he needed to set up a Steam account, and then you needed a Microsoft account to get into that flight simulator, and then you needed an NVIDIA account to download the latest drivers. This was traumatic for them. This was when they called me, they'd already been working on it for probably an hour, probably more. And all of the timeouts, just getting through all they needed to do was they needed help with the 2-factor process where they had to put the code in. Now, that's so sobering when you look at the fact that most of Washington is filled with people that look a little bit older and less competent than my parents. This crypto, this AI is so far outside their wheelhouse. But culturally, we do this thing where elders define their value as they get later in life by making those contributions. So like Joe Biden, we all watch him and he's obviously should not be in that role. It's not a good job match at all. Like as a hiring manager, I would not hire that person to de-escalate tensions between rival nations, know how to develop the right strategy to talk to China about Taiwan right now, how to make good decisions around being a strong partner and ally for people like Israel, and then delicately dance around all of the tension on the other side of that massive conflict that we have embedded ourselves into. All of these things, I feel like that person that I talked to on tech support last night, somebody who's a bit further advanced on the path of, in a nice way, senility. It's that degenerative process of late age. And clearly, much of our governance is being handled by those people. Now, a lot like what I did with my philosophy of life, where I stopped needing outside validation. I didn't need to go take it to some guru or some physicist. I didn't need Eric Weinstein and let's say Stephen Wolfram and the Dalai Lama and the Pope to sign off on what I think what the universe is, what I am, and how I fit into it. I'm past a place where I need somebody else to tell me that. It's a wonderful place to live in, and I think we need to do something like that with how we govern. I think that we all in crypto I think we tell ourselves it's pragmatic, but it's also, there's a little bit of cynicism there where you're going, well, I'm smarter than, like I'm shorting the future of, like, in a real sense, if you're voting on Bitcoin and crypto and all these things, it's because you've done the homework to know that it's inevitably going to be needed. And you were basically just waiting for everything to fail because we've already done all the projections to know that it is inevitable. So all of the smarty pants in the Web3 community, I don't hear anybody talking seriously about transition planning. And as somebody who worked on just countless disaster recovery plans and business continuity plans, it's time for us to start doing that. And the way to do it is not to go get elected to their silly, like all of, when I look at the executive, judicial, and legislative branches of the United States, I see a TV show. I see WWE meets Days of Our Lives meets Real Housewives. The solution is not to, I mean, thankfully, the serious people that are speaking, like I hear you speaking, Balaji, and I hear me speaking now, the people that wrote the Constitution were those kind of people. They weren't like Bernie Sanders, Maxine Waters, and Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, and on the what would be the commensurate with that on the right, the turtle. What's his name? Mitch McConnell, and then most of the Supreme Court now. I mean, like, if we, like, those are not the people that wrote the Constitution, and we know it, you know, like, and for us to I think what we should do is just, as a community, we should start getting serious about peaceful transition planning. I think if we're so smart, how come we're not, like, we should be able to create, leverage all of this work we've done on DAO creation and organization. We know all the ways they get infiltrated from the inside out by outside actors that are competitive. There's the whole textbook for how to cause paralysis in a governing. Or like we can take all of the rich history of the U.S. Constitution, coupled with everything we've learned about successful corporate governance, coupled with what we've seen in, I would recommend this episode I did, if I struck any of your curiosity with recouping some of your losses by hiring me with no obligation to keep me unless you enjoy the output that you see out of and my contributions. I guess what I'm trying to say is it is time, like every child goes through a phase in life where they realize they're an adult and they no longer have to ask their parents' permission if they want to move or if they want to go get a different job or for approval in their love life. Like we all reach that phase. Gen Xers as a collection with the millennials that are in the state of, there's just this beautiful space in life where you're still able to operate at maybe 80% your high throughput capacity of your early 20s, but then you've achieved enough wisdom and life experience so as to be that senior engineer in the room that says, instead of doing all that, if we just did this little thing here, we wouldn't have to do all that. That group of people are the ones that write a constitution and take a constitution and with sort of deep respect in their heart and intention set out to improve on it, to take all the things that work, adapt them for the technologies of the time and the moment. And we have no plan. We have no plan for when, basically all that's keeping something like a escalation over Taiwan from happening is these folks from the old homes, the retirement communities. And I say that with a lot of respect in my heart, who are searching for their own meaning and finding it and being the elders that are supposed to know what to do, but have no clue about all this technology. It's not realistic for them to be able to at all know how to respond appropriately. I think a lot of us folks that have freed up time and have a skill set that is useful for working on a thing like that, we need to all rally around each other, figure out a way to finance development of it so that there is a plan B just ready to go. So if a crisis escalates. Now, if the world's factory and the largest buyer of goods decide to get in a hot war and they're both nuclear armed, that is a complete failure of leadership on both sides. Both sides are supposed to be mature enough to avoid that outcome. I'm not wildly confident that they are. I think we're all kind of at this state where I think their heart's in the right place for their constituencies and they feel like they're doing the right thing, but they don't see all of their moves look slow and clumsy. And if we're at this saber rattling stage, which we definitely are with everything happening in the Middle East and in between Russia and Ukraine, we're beyond the saber rattling stage. We need to know, there has to be a sober crew that step up and say, well, or we could do this. What do you guys think? And we have all the technology to do it easily. So I want to be a part of that crew. I just want to work on it. I don't want to be the voice that drives it. I want it to be an open source project. I want it to be all my life. I have succeeded at things like Connect 4. When I was in second grade, I'm teaching my little kid how to play Connect 4 and how to, or like the chess player sets up a checkmate where you can't lose. You set up a scenario where no matter what, it's a win-win for everybody. I think the community of crypto, we've gotten past the first critical layer of the infra, like where we can start actually doing stuff. Now what? Let's make plan B, and let's make it sweet. All right? Full-time employee, you don't got to pay me. 20% recoup of your losses. Call me. Thank you.